Hello, everyone. My name is Rey Dos Santos, and I am your analyst today. As part of this Tableau course taught by Duke University, we are here to make a recommendation to the company Dognition that will increase the amount of tests completed by their users. So today we'll briefly review Dognition and what the company does. We'll touch on a few specifics about the data we use and then make a recommendation based on that data, followed by a short recap. So let's get started. This Tableau project, we are consulting an existing company and using real data provided by Dognition. Dognition is a web service that enables users to better understand their dogs. This is done by a series of scientifically designed tests and games played with their dog and then recorded in your online user account. Dognition charges their users either a flat fee for the first 20 tests and a profile assessment, or the option for an annual or monthly subscription. And the problem that we're trying to solve for the company is this attrition, and that users are not completing as many tests as Dognition would like, therefore limiting the value of their data. So the goal of this recommendation is to improve the number of tests completed by each dog by 10% over the next 30 days to add value to their data. And 30 days is specifically targeted because that was their average retention rate. Their average retention rate was roughly 24 days. So it's the earliest we can measure the effectiveness of the change. And for the most part, the data was clean. It's important to note that excluded Dognition's test accounts. This turned out to equate to about 102 unique dog IDs, 38 unique user accounts, and all the data associated. Filter used was Shih Tzus that weigh over 30 pounds. As we can see from the underlying data, it's pretty obvious outliers. They all have the same birthday, all coming from the same spot. And I'm pretty sure there are no Shih Tzus that weigh 190 pounds, and if there are, that would just be scary. So let's jump into some of the insights the data provided. So the first and most significant insight is that there's this tremendous drop-off of engagement after dogs completed their 20th test. And this might seem like low-hanging fruit, but as we'll see later in the presentation, the drivers behind this drop-off are a critical part of the business. Remember, this is a point where a profile is assigned to the dog, and we see this across all dog types and all breeds. Now we also see it across different geographic distributions. So pretty consistent, same drop-off. So much of the fuel behind this particular drop-off is the type of plan users select when registering. And this chart shows that the number of users are dominated by those who opt in for the $19 flat rate plan. In order to continue on, these users would have to jump onto a subscription model. So if we look at just the options that are listed on our website for a new user, these three, the annual and monthly as well as the flat rate, the flat rate actually represents over 71% of the registrants. And taking a look at just users who opt in for that $19 plan, this chart shows that, of those that started, less than 2.5% actually continue on to complete 21 or more tests. And again, most of the users opt into this rate plan, so a significant opportunity here. The second insight the data gives us is that Dognition customers are both price sensitive and at the same time, they need to be vested in order to commit to completing additional tests. Dognition tested and hypothesized that if they gave away the first 4 tests for free, users would be hooked and they continue on to more of the program. But as we can see from that data, the attrition here is much more significant. But at the same time, we see much better results, a little bit better retention with those that opt in for the annual or the monthly subscription plan. Dognition will always see a steady decline in progression of completed tests, but they're getting significantly more out of users who sign up for an ongoing plan. And then my third and final insight, which actually leads to my recommendation, is actually not from our data set. I think it's important that we, as analysts, always step back and consider the company from a bird's eye view. Over the past 5 weeks, we've been living only in the data set, but it's important to consider all the other inputs that drive our companies. In a video interview with Elliot from Dognition, he begins by explaining there are two parts to Dognition. The first is what he calls their brochure, which is their website, the content on the site, and all the things users see before they start the program. The second part of Dognition is their actual product, games, tests, user engagement, the dog profiles, which is where we're spending our time. A critical assumption during the course is that these two sections of Dognition are separate, and that the website and user experience before they buy does not influence the amount of tests completed. But the data shows that they're actually extremely intertwined and correlated, and that the user experience before they purchase directly affects the amount of tests completed. And then we as analysts, we always have to draw from our own personal experiences and skill sets. I come from an e-commerce background, and I've worked with pricing at a variety of levels. There's one thing on Dognition's website that just really kept screaming at me. In particular, my recommendation is that Dognition completely changed their pricing strategy, and here's why. When I look at their pricing options, it clearly pushes potential customers heavily towards this price. There's a number of things they've done right here. First, they offer 3 options, which is good practice, common for subscription and web services. Customers evaluate all 3 options, and the vast majority will pick the middle value. They've also centered their annual subscription because this is where they want to push their customers. It's probably the most profitable, so good practice there. They've also listed what you get and then what you don't get. Again, good practice. Unfortunately, much of what they've done is overshadowed by confusing the customer. So this is a flat rate option. This is a subscription, but I'm not really sure if there's any value included there. And then this option has both a subscription and a flat rate fee, which is pretty confusing. Each pricing option is a different calculation for the customer, so this inconsistency can quickly lose their attention and lead them more towards this flat rate fee. Now remember that Dognition, it's a new product. Most customers have no idea what to expect because there aren't a lot of services like them. Because of this, new customers are inherently have sort of a lack of trust and maybe hesitant to invest heavily into the unknown. So with this $19 glaring at you, which is relatively a small investment, there's not much incentive to purchase anything more. And this is why we see that overwhelming tendency towards that option, which is also why we see a large drop-off after the 20 tests, and also why Dognition is losing potential data from these already captured customers. It's better, cheaper, and faster to convert existing customers than it is to acquire new ones. So my recommendation is that Dognition test a single product, single pricing model. Keep it simple, make sure it's still profitable, incorporate a sense of urgency, and get users in a mind frame of a long-term commitment. Best practice is that as companies mature, then they can explore more complex pricing options. But for now, this is hurting Dognition. So to recap, goal of the project is to propose the single most effective business change. There are a number of changes Dognition could have explored, but if Dognition really wants to rapidly and concretely improve the number of tests users complete, the single most effective change they can make is really to rework this pricing strategy. They have to keep it simple, they have to make it without a specific end goal, and they have to react to where the data is driving them. And maybe in a month or so, I'll see Dognition incorporate that. So in conclusion, 2 key takeaways for us. 1, don't get stuck in your data silo when you're working with a specific set. Take a step back to see the big picture. View your company from a different perspective. Take into account all its inputs and all its outputs, and that'll give you better context for your data and allow you to understand where the data fits in. And then secondly, make sure you use all your skills and experiences. We all come from different backgrounds. No matter what you did before, draw from those experiences, and you'll add value to your companies in ways others can't. But that's it. Thank you very much for your time. Best of luck in the class.